Hello, hello, and welcome to Under the Thin Green Line. We are your hosts, Bambi.
And I'm Kendra.
And if you are like us and you feel guilty when you spend money or have a difficult time doing it, then this book, Die with Zero by Bill Perkins, may help you rethink how you spend your money. This book talks about how to maximize your time and your health along with your wealth in order to achieve maximum life fulfillment. Bill trained as an engineer before becoming a highly successful energy trader for a hedge fund. He wrote this book because he has a deep fear of wasting his life. As a caveat, this book assumes you are a reasonably high earner. So if you are barely making ends meet as it is, this book may not be for you at this time.
In this episode, we're going to discuss our thoughts on the book. I hope you enjoy. And if you would like, stick around for our little blooper reel at the end when it comes to our cat, Javi.
Let's jump in. Feet first, nose plugged.
I don't have to plug my nose. We kind of did an audit of our life and our travels and what we want to do after reading the book. It was really helpful for us, I think.
Yes. As you're reading it, it's basically telling you, and it's made me kind of rethink how we're spending our money. Because we live in a society where it's telling you, like, you need to save, which, okay, that's good. Because you don't know down the road, right? When you go to retire, society's like 65. I mean, it's the idea of like you dying and having, say you saved $500,000 in your savings and you die. That's, in his book, it's basically saying you just wasted 500,000 hours of your life.
Of life experiences. And
most of us work until 65.
He says, take 500,000 divided by however much you make an hour. And that's how many hours of work that you did without any experiences
you didn't get to have.
Right.
So as I was saying, when you're talking about work, people forget what you're working for. You're like working and I'm saving money. And I thought it's interesting because he compares that to if you were to take a rat and train him to run on a wheel for cheese, he's going to run on the wheel for cheese. And pretty soon you take the cheese away and you can just show him the wheel and he'll just run. And that's kind of like being on autopilot a little bit. You just forget what you're working for. You forget that you're working to save money to spend and have experiences. And all you do is just run. And people can take that cheese away and be like, or take all your dreams away and whatever. And you're just going to sit there and run because you're just so used to doing it. And so you forget what your goals are and why you are working in the first place.
I like how he puts it in the book. You're taking my life's energy and giving me paper when you work at a place 9 to 5.
Oh, yeah, 9 to 5. And then you and I have experienced where we've seen parents or family members and how my dad spent a lot of time wanting to go duck hunting. And he wanted my uncle to get his old camera fixed so that he could go take photos. And he wasn't doing that when he was more able. But he was like experiences, just trying to do what he loved to do. Like, but at the end,
at what point was this at though? And when he found out he had cancer,
towards the end, because he found out 2 years prior to passing away. So it was like during that time he was trying to do those things,
and then he couldn't.
Yeah,
he was not able to do those things.
And a lot of people don't want to look at their life. They don't want to think about when they die. And that's how they get on autopilot. People just get on autopilot. They get up, go to work, 9 to 5, come home. Sometimes people just watch Netflix, make food.
Yeah. Well, and if you have kids, we don't have kids.
We don't have kids. That's kind of what we were doing there for a little bit.
From our own experiences, for sure.
Yeah, we recognized, we could do something different.
And we're at a point, where we're looking at like, our finances and where we're at. We're saving. Like, we're not like in a bad situation financially. We're doing okay.
Out of debt.
Yeah, we're out of debt. We wanted that years ago, worked really hard, took care of that.
Yes, very hard. Made
out.
posters, did all the things. Listened to Dave Ramsey.
Right, listened to Dave Ramsey, which really helped a lot. The snowball, the baby steps. And
all of it.
What did he call it? Was it baby steps?
Yeah, I think it's baby steps.
Oh, sorry, I don't remember what it was exactly. But that really did help us focus on, like, you got one debt paid off and you just rolled whatever you're paying in that one, rolled it into the next one. If it was $250, you paid that off, then you put the $250 into the next debt, and you just kept snowballing, and it, like, you paid your car off, got my student loans paid off. We had everything paid off, no debt.
Yeah, no debt. And we paid it off as fast as we could. Yeah. That's what we wanted to do.
And we're not getting younger. And so I loved the idea of, when you're reading it, just making you focus on all of these really good experiences you could have at different decades in your life. And there's certain experiences that you should have in certain decades. You know, like a cruise. We could probably do that, like,
in our 70s.
Yeah, later
80s,
on in life.
Well, maybe 80s.
You know, we're on a cruise. But if we're talking about, like, hiking, skydiving, I mean, maybe some people could skydive in their 70s, which they've probably done. But depending on, you know, what you feel like would be getting the most out of that experience, at what age would that be, you know?
How can you do it physically at certain ages?
Hiking Machu Picchu, which is, like, what we want to do.
Yes.
I probably better do that in this decade. You know, like, I'm 42. Yeah, we better do it now. And it really just made me, like, we started making a list. Like, we made a poster, put our goals and our travel plans on there. And we're like, these are the places we want to go. And a lot of them are probably going to be done in this decade, because they're a lot of, like, maybe little bike tours we want to do. And when we go to the UK, or hiking certain mountains or whatever, like,
right. We have an idea too of just moving to a different city.
Yep.
And experiencing that. And that probably does need to happen in this decade for sure.
Now, we've talked about this before in the last podcast, about me having a fear of loss. And this really really woke me up a little bit about, like, the money we have now, we should be spending it on experiences. And you have been better about that, in that way of, it's the experience. And I'm like, yeah, but how much is it? You know what I mean? Like, how much is that?
Or how much time? Like, how much time is it going to take to go from here to here, when we can make it a lot less time and we can get a lot more done in the time that we have?
Right.
Instead of trying to, like, save money, but kind of like the idea of New York, where we stayed in New Jersey, and each bus trip, I think, maybe took us 25, 30
minutes, sometimes
somewhere
longer.
in there. So it was like an hour of travel every day to get into the city and then come back, when we could have, I mean, it was more expensive to stay in Manhattan, but
we could have afforded it.
We could have.
We could have afforded it. And a lot of it too is the fear of the unknown, right? My fear of loss is like, well, I don't know what's going to happen in the future. If we spend more money, like, we got to, like, pinch and save. And I think there's a balance of that too. You got to kind of balance it. He's not saying, like, you need to just full blown go out and just spend all that money on the experiences now, leave yourself with nothing.
Yeah, he talks about the grasshopper and the ant, the spendthrift and the, I don't know.
And have fun.
Yeah.
Enjoy your life. You know, the ant was work. And the grasshopper was like, you know, what's the song he does? My life was something.
I don't know.
Doodle-doodle-doodle-doodle-doo. Anyway. My brother would get upset that I haven't, that I don't know. He used to sing that song all the time. But anyway.
Which brother?
Nathan.
Oh, okay.
Nathan, I was like, it's going to come to me, the song. But anyway, the grasshopper had a lot of fun. And then when winter came, he didn't have anything. He didn't have shelter, didn't have anything. And then all the ants that worked really hard, you know, they're enjoying a feast and whatnot. And, you know, and then they come in. But he kind of twisted that a little bit to be like, you shouldn't be one or the other.
No, you shouldn't.
You need to be both. Like, you need to be like, yes, make money, save, but spend.
Right.
Use that money. And he said that he has, like, an app, or is it not an app, but his accountant. He says he has an accountant that tells him how much money he has been spending in certain areas. And if it's not enough, he's like, got to change that.
Right.
I'm not spending anywhere near enough money in that area. And that could be like travel.
It is
or
a
whatever.
good problem to have, though. He's on the
He is a good
upper,
problem
you
to
know what I
have.
mean? That's kind of
He
where
has
we get a little,
millions of dollars.
yes.
And he talks about when he plays poker and all the money that I mean, of course, in my head, I'm like, wow, that is a lot. But some people like, I mean, it's pocket change. You know, it's a good problem to have, you know, spend.
Right.
On
And you and I,
travel.
we've, since our relationship, we started with not very much, you know, and kind of worked up to having more, you know, we had to kind of pinch pennies and make sure we were paying attention to what we were spending. And then we've gotten to a place where, you know, it's easier for us to do things, travel, things like that.
Right. And it's not too late to start. Like now is early, you know, or now is the time to do it. You don't think like, oh, well, it's too late at this point. It doesn't matter. He just says like, you just need to start thinking about it now.
So we made our list.
So we did. We made our list and we've got some places we'd like to go. Do you want to share where we'd like to go?
Oh, so many places. New Zealand, UK, Costa Rica, Machu Picchu. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I'm saying that.
There's some places closer, like, you know, Georgia, Maine, Boston. Want to go to the Grand Canyon. Yep. Switzerland, Paris, France, Rome.
Italy.
Yep.
Iceland
was one of them. And then one that was back in Utah, Mount Timpanogos, which we lived there for 5 years.
And
we stared at Mount Timpanogos, but never took the hike to go up to it. So we're like, all right, that's it.
It was a small hike, but...
Well, it's not a small hike.
We went to the cave.
We did go to the Timpanogos cave, which was really cool. Highly recommend that. So he has one of the rules is using all the available tools to help you die with zero. So one of them was like a longevity thing. And he liked the, I think it was called Society of Actuaries, which they're the experts, you know, on life expectancy. So you can go to, he has in the book, longevityillustrator.org. So I went on there and put both of us on there. And we're pretty similar, like within 3 or 4 years of each other. I'm like
90 to 93.
90 to 93. And I even went to another longevity one, which was called like blueprintincome.com or something. And you just put in basically like age, weight, life events, fitness, lifestyle, ask you questions like, do you smoke? Do you drink? You know, so, and then also doing, you know, one of the things is knowing what your current health is. Getting some objective tests done, blood pressure, blood work.
We did do our blood work not too long ago.
And we'd like to do it again later this year. Because we're trying like a new little fasting regimen, which we're going to talk about in a future podcast down the road.
Yes.
Because we're doing that right now. It's been an interesting journey, but some research on intermittent fasting. So we're trying to do better for our health now so we can continue to do stuff later.
Yes.
So that's one of the things he says to kind of check in to see where you're at right now. He, you know, talks about your like autopilot and having fear, and those two being kind of an enemy of rational thinking. It's what stops people from doing stuff now, having experiences now.
He was kind of talking about too, as if you're worried about 2 to 3 people that you're going to move away from, it's like allowing them to choose what you're doing and what experiences you have because you want to be near them. Is that what that was saying?
Yeah, So he was saying that a lot of people, if you have this opportunity for a job across the country, that's like $70,000 more a year, but you're like, well, I don't know. I really want to be close to my siblings or whatever. And he's thinking, well, if you're getting $70,000 more a year, like first of all, how often do you see these people?
Right.
And you're like, well, yeah, maybe I see them like 6 times a year or something.
We take for granted what we have in front of us.
Exactly. When I don't know if you have found, you know, I know I have, when we lived in Utah next to my siblings, I was surprised by how often we actually saw them.
Yeah, it wasn't very
And
much.
then it wasn't as much as you would think living there. And then now we live here. You know, we go visit them, well, probably like once a year now that we live in Nebraska. But basically it's saying that if you make $70,000 extra, how many round trip tickets could you buy to go see them?
Oh,
now
so many more.
Right. You could buy round trip tickets to go see them. Plus now you're in a new city with new experiences and meeting new people Like,
Yeah.
so there's things to think about. There's things like, what's stopping you? Look at your fears. Get out of autopilot, which is all we're in. It's so easy. It's comfortable.
We were
comfort
definitely in
is
autopilot.
comfort is easy.
Comfort is so easy.
Yeah, comfort is nice.
We're programmed for comfort.
Yep.
And to not be fearful of things, even though there's no tigers anymore. We're definitely programmed for comfort.
Right. Exactly. So the other thing he had was, think of your life as distinct seasons. So what experiences belong in each decade? And we kind of talked about a little bit. Like, I feel like the bulk of the stuff that we want to do is going to be done in the next 10 years.
Right.
Like, I feel like I would want all those to be happening in those 10 years. And we're going to have so many more other plans, but those were our initial, like, travel is kind of what we have a big thing on.
Yeah.
Is traveling. And I don't know if I want to fly a lot when I'm older. Like, the last time we flew, it was not great. But we were also trying to save money. And I was trying to, like, cheap, you know what I mean? When we could have, that was the other thing he mentioned is, like, take a first class ticket, like, fancy seat.
So that wasn't him.
Round trip. Wasn't it?
No.
Somebody else was saying that. Okay.
Yeah.
But same idea, though. Like, have that experience. Right?
It's his idea was, and I can't remember, Steve Harvey.
Oh.
I think is who it was. It's like, take a first class trip. And this is kind of more in the idea of getting yourself to make more money.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of the idea of that. It's like, put yourself in a first class flight and then see what it's like to feel, what it feels like to be in a first class flight. And then the next time you have to go to fly, it's going to be in coach, and you will remember walking past those first class seats, what it felt like. So he's just kind of saying, get your mind programmed into how can you make more money, which is a little bit different than what we're kind of, not really. I mean, it's kind of in the same vein of what we're talking about here with understanding dying with zero, but it's the idea of what does it feel like to make more money where you can have more experiences, and what do you need to do? What mindset do you need to be in to do that, to make more money?
Right.
And there's another thing too. Once you're in the habit of working for money to live, the thrill of making money exceeds the thrill of actually living. So you got to remember that too. Like, of course you want to make money to, like, live, but don't forget, like, don't forget why you're doing it. Yeah. For the experiences.
Yeah. I mean, that's the reason why we were saving, is like, well, we want to do all these things and we don't want to have nothing.
Yeah.
You know, and he's like, well, if you're worried about that, get an annuity, like, or, you know, get life insurance, get like something. If you're worried about those things and those things are stopping you from having experiences, then go purchase it. Do it.
And then an annuity is?
Basically, it's protection if you live too long.
Yeah.
And you run out of money.
They do say that they write books on annuities, but the idea is that people that purchase annuities put into like a big old pool of money.
Yep.
And some people will die sooner than they think.
And some will live longer than they think.
Yeah.
But either way, you're guaranteed.
You're guaranteed a certain amount of money for however much you put in.
Right.
I don't know exactly how much it is for each amount.
Yeah, like if you put $50,000, what is that a month? I don't know.
We don't know for sure,
that. Could looked into that a little bit more. But I like the difference of, like, life insurance is to protect you if you die, if you don't live long enough. Mm-hmm. And annuities is if you live too long.
If you live too long, right.
If you live too long, that kind of like helps with that. So one of the things he talks about is also to know when to stop growing your wealth. So he says that people who live to retirement age do not spend all the money before they die. A very high percentage of people do not spend all the money that they have, which is what he is saying, like, spend that now, like spend that into, without, balance it. Don't spend it all. But a lot of people don't use all that money because they get older. They do less things. They don't travel as much as they thought they were going to do.
They spend less on what they think they're going to spend.
Exactly. Because they're not able to do as much. Mm-hmm. All the stuff that we want to do is like something we physically have to be able to do,
Yeah.
And so you think about that, you're just like, yeah, that makes sense. We need to balance that out a little bit. Most of my money should be spent during this 35, 45, 50, whatever age, that
when you're more active.
When you're more active and able and in good health, better health, I should say, than when you get older. And then you end up spending a little less. Maybe you spend more on like cruises, or you spend more, you don't do as much. Train trips,
that don't take up a lot of energy, or,
you can just
what you
hang
can do
out
in your 70s.
Exactly. So I liked that thought of it too. The other one is take the biggest risks when you have little to lose.
That would be in your 20s more so, they say.
So take bigger risks when you're younger. And going back to that, the moving, having 2 or 3 people decide where you live, kind of think about that in a way. One of the things that I thought was interesting is about inheritance and about kids.
We did kind of mention it, but yeah.
Well, a lot of people save for their kids for when they die. But if you think about it, if you die, say my parents, they died at, 85, and their oldest kid is typically people's like 20 years younger, right? They usually start having kids when they're 20 or in their early 20s. So now that child, your oldest, is now in their 60s, way past the point where they could have used that money and had the most impact on their life.
Right.
So a lot of people don't think about that. They're like, oh, I'll just hang on to it.
Like a down payment on a house.
Yep, exactly. And he says like we said, 25 to 35 is when you want to give your kids their inheritance or chunks of it. Bits of it during that time, so they can use it to go travel. Like maybe one of your kids really wants to do a road trip or something in Europe, and you're like, okay, well, you can have your inheritance, and it's now so you can spend that, right? And he says that 25 to 35 is an age group where they're not too young to just willy-nilly spend it all, but they're not too old to be able to make the most impact in their life. And so it makes sense. Like if we had kids, like I think about my parents, like I'm at least young enough when I got, the inheritance that I'm able to do something with that now.
Right.
Some of my siblings are 20 years older than me.
Yeah.
And so they're going to spend it on other things, but probably wouldn't have made such an impact on them unless they were younger,
Mm-hmm. And we also recognize the privilege to have generational wealth and even get an inheritance.
It's a different way of thinking, because in society, it's like, no, you retire, and then when they die, then the kids get the money. It's like...
But we kind of, that's kind of how it goes. And we watched people like get things like a trailer, right?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Like a family member that got a trailer, and then they couldn't use the trailer because they weren't physically able to do it anymore. Yeah. So they got a trailer that sat in their backyard, and I don't know if they used it, and then they just had to sell it. And it's like, people don't want to look and think about when they're going to die because they think it's morbid, and it's easier to be on autopilot and not think about it. But you don't want to be on your deathbed and be wishing and hoping that you could have done A, B, C, D. You know what I mean? EFG.
Because as the quote that he uses often in lots of podcasts that he's in, it's from Downton Abbey, from the butler Carson. He says, the business of life is the acquisition of memories. In the end, that's all there is. And it's memory dividends.
Or like a life well lived.
That continue to pay off as you get older. Because you can just relive it. And if you feel like you don't have enough time, but you have money, use that money to create more time so you can have more experiences. So what if you spend so much time cleaning your house and you have money? Hire someone to clean your house. So that frees you up.
Or
right?
Your laundry.
Your laundry.
Yeah, take it to a place to clean it.
If you're able and you've got the money and not enough time, then use that money to make more time.
Yeah.
The other experience he talked about is a hyperbaric chamber that he would drive go 4 hours to. He looked at the risk and reward of that, and he's just like, wow, I don't know if 8 hours out of my day
or took
4 hours. Took him forever to get there.
Yeah, forever to get there.
To add just 3 years onto his life. He's like, no. You look at a lot of things that you do, like how much driving are you doing for work? Oh, 2 hours of driving when, could you move closer so you could have that extra hour and a half at home with your spouse or with your partner
or kids
or kids. So we like this book. Highly recommend it.
Oh, yeah.
He's got lots of podcasts out there. You just, type in Bill Perkins and he comes up on lots of different episodes for lots of different people.
It's a way to live more purposeful and not autopilot.
Yeah. Max fulfillment.
Yeah.
Of basically life experiences. Clear to the point where you have practically nothing at the end, that you've given it to your kids, you've given it to charity, you've given it to when it can make the most impact and not when your kids are in their 60s.
Right.
Really, the biggest thing for us, like we said, is just looking at where we want to go and not just being so money pinching that we miss out on things.
Yes.
So that's what we want to share with you, is definitely read this book, listen to the podcast that he has out there, because it's really, really good. Kind of makes you rethink your life.
It does. And
what really matters are your memories and experiences, not the money that you have, because you can't take your money with you.
Nope.
Where you're going, wherever that is.
I suppose you could, but then there'd be like grave robbers or something.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I guess. Well, if you had your money in gold and jewelry, like back in the day. Not paper. I'm working for green paper.
On a planet. Circling a ball of gas.
Hurling through space.
Hurling through outer space.
On a rock. Working for green paper. It's one of our favorite things to say. So thank you for listening. If you like us so far, feel free to give us a 5-star review. Like us. We'd love that.
We'd so appreciate it.
Yes, we'd so appreciate it. And we will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
He's like, it's almost 5 o'clock and I am hungry and I need attention.
Put there should be a little bit of food in the kitchen.
Let's go.
How much did you give him?
He's not going to eat that much.
Okay, so no matter. I just said put a little bit in the pan. You're like, full cup.
I even
I'm
got
just
the
trying to
microphone
watch
up really close so they could hear.